Hi, I'm Greg Meyer. I'm the Senior Product Manager here at Hunter Engineering, and Wheel Balancers is my product. Today we're going to talk about RoadForce WalkAway, and specifically how to use it, operations. How do you actually utilize this new feature? Let's talk with a little history first. If you're familiar with RoadForce balancers have become the standard in the industry. All OEs either strongly recommend or require you to have one. Why? Because we can fix vibrations. That part hasn't changed. That's been around. We have operations videos that talk about how to balance, how to measure road force, how to fix it, how to measure tire pull. We're going to link you to those videos. And if you're new to road force, I really highly recommend that you go check those out. Today, what we'd like to focus on are the major improvements of RoadForce WalkAway. What is it? Well, if you remember with RoadForce balancers in the past, if you've seen them, there was always an inflation system that was right here. There was a holster, a hose that would sit right there. You could pull the hose out and top off the air to make sure that we're at the set point pressure or the placard pressure. That was very important. Super handy to have that here. But now what have we done? We've actually just moved it over here, and you might think, well, big deal. What does that do for me? Well, it's now going to become a WalkAway inflation system. Looks a lot like a data set arm, but it's going to function completely different. You notice we have an air hose. We now have a chuck that has this nice button on it, and when I push that button, it releases the chuck. Makes it nice and easy to put it on and off the wheel. But that's not what's important about this. What's important is that now the computer can automatically release this chuck. So what we can do is take a tire that's not fully inflated. It might only have 5 PSI in it. Connect the chuck, pull the hood down, set my set point pressure to whatever the vehicle needs, and walk away. When I'm doing something else, the computer will inflate this to the set point pressure, release the chuck automatically. When we detect that it's home, we're going to then spin up the balancer, measure imbalance and road force, straight track, whatever you've told it to do. And when you come back, those numbers will be on the screen, you apply your weights, and off you go. That may not sound like a big deal, but in our studies, we've saved 10 to 15 minutes in a set of 4 tires. It's a 4-tire changeover, if you will. So these are really significant savings. So if you want to get faster and more productive, I suggest you take a look at this. So let's take a look at how we actually do that. Okay, so now we're going to roll the wheel up onto the wheel lift. Lift it into position. Slide it onto the collet. Clamp it up and just drop my wheel lift away so that I can bring the valve stem to the 9 o'clock position. Okay, that's even with the balancer shaft. We don't want the valve stem up here, and we don't want it down here because it's more likely to bind the hose. If we put the valve stem here, that'll give the chuck the best chance of releasing and getting back into the arm. We have a backup plan, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But what I do now that I'm at the 9 o'clock position, I release the chuck using the button, place it on the valve stem. Okay, you can hear it starts inflating right away, and I can hit my set point to whatever I need, and then I'm going to walk away and go do something else. And it's calculating that time. When it hits the pressure that I've set it to, that chuck will release automatically. When it detects that it's home safely, and only when it detects that it's home safely, it will spin up and measure road force and imbalance, or whatever I've set it to do, and raise the hood, and we're finished. So let's talk a little bit about how the WalkAway timer works. When we look at tires, obviously they vary in size a lot, little tires to big balloon mutter type tires. So inflation time varies a lot. So what we need to do is actually put some air in and see how quickly the pressure is going up or down to make an estimate. So you'll notice initially you don't see a WalkAway time, but then in a few seconds it comes up on the screen. So let's show you how that works. So again, we connect the chuck as we do, and I'm going to pull the hood down, and you'll see it's thinking, seeing how fast, in this case I'm going down in pressure. Once it has a few seconds, it can give you an estimate of the time, and then you can know how much time you have to go do something else. So some of you are probably thinking, what if I have to go above set point pressure on this tire? Well, that's not a problem. We have a mode to handle that, and that mode is called Pressure Plus. So before we leave the tire changer, it's a good idea to make sure that it's going to hold air, that that tire is sealed to the rim. Okay, so what we do is it's a good idea to put a few PSI of air in there just to make sure it's holding air. Once that's the case, we can bring it over to the balancer, connect the chuck. And as we mentioned, if we have to go over the set point pressure, we'll hit pressure plus. When we hit pressure plus, it's going to go up to whatever set point you have set up in the software. So maybe that's 40 PSI, maybe that's 50 PSI, whatever the case may be. And then it can even dwell there if you want. That's also configurable. It can be 5 seconds, it can be a minute or whatever. Then it's going to drop back down to the set point for that vehicle. So let's say it's 32 PSI. It will release the chuck, and then it'll spin up and perform the balance. Whenever we do this procedure, we're going to bring in the load roller to ensure that that tire is sitting properly on that rim, okay? So, but you might say, well, gosh, I might have to go over 60 PSI to do it for this particular assembly. Maybe it's very challenging. Well, that's not a problem either. In that case though, we can't do that on the balancer. We can only go up to 60 PSI per regulation. So it's gonna have to be on the vehicle or in a cage to go above 60 PSI. So in that case, you take the assembly to the inflation cage and inflate it to whatever pressure you need to. But now, rather than go back to that tire and wait for it to deflate, you can bring it back to the balancer at that high pressure, set it to whatever set point you need, again, 32 PSI maybe, connect the chuck, then close the hood, and walk away, and you'll have walk-away time as the pressure reduces as well. So it's important to note, walk-away time is useful when the pressure is going up or when it's going down as well. Let's say you want to give your customer the absolute best product you can give them. That means giving them the lowest road force numbers they can have and therefore the smoothest ride on their vehicle. Well, if that's the case, you may already know about Bead Massage. Bead Massage is a procedure that's done on the tire changer where we roll the beads of the tire using the roller of the tire changer, and that lowers road force numbers by 7 pounds on average. That's a significant reduction, therefore a noticeable improvement for your customers. You might think, well, if I have to inflate on the changer, how am I still going to save time on road force walkaway? Well, the answer is just inflate to the bead seat. Maybe that's 20 pounds, maybe that's 25 pounds of pressure. Then we roll the beads and bring it over and finish inflation on road force walkaway. We still save time, we still massage the beads, and we gave the customer the best possible product in the least amount of time. Let's say we have an assembly and we either need to inflate or deflate it, but we're not balancing it. We can do that as well with this machine. So what we do is we just roll it onto the wheel lift, hang it on the shaft, just put it somewhere where it's not going to go anywhere, so it's safely secured. Connect our chuck, set our set point to whatever we need to go to. In this case, I'll go to 30 PSI. Because the hood is up, it's not going to automatically release the chuck. And that's because we don't want you to get hit by this chuck as it releases. So basically the hood up says, hey, I'm going to do this manually. When it hits the pressure, it's going to beep at me and let me know that it's finished. Now I can just disconnect the chuck, take the wheel off the shaft, and do whatever I need to do. Let's say we don't need to inflate this tire. We've already put pressure in it on the tire changer, and all we need to do is check balance, whatever the case may be. I don't have to use the inflation system on this. Just as in the previous generations of road force balancers, we didn't have to use the inflation system here. I don't have to use this. I can just clamp it up, pull the hood down, measure and balance and road force, or whatever I need to do. There are many different wheel designs out there. Therefore, the valve stems end up in all sorts of interesting positions. Sometimes the valve stem is rubber, can be metal, can be at unusual angles. Maybe we didn't position it just right. All of these things can cause the chuck not to release properly. So there's a procedure that will handle that, and let me show you how that works. So I'm going to connect this chuck and pull the hood down. And what I'm going to do is intentionally not let the chuck get home. If you remember it, I mentioned that the chuck has to safely get home. We have to detect that it's home before we'll spin the balancer. And I'll do this so that you can see what will happen. It's going to rock the wheel once it hits pressure. I'm going to hold it. And now I'm not going to let it go home. And the sensor says, uh-oh, something's wrong. Notice it's cycling the chuck to try to shake it free, and it's servoing the wheel back and forth, again, to help it shake free. When it detects that the chuck is safely home, then it's going to spin up, measure and balance, and complete the job. When you come back, it will have completed the job as normal. Now, if the chuck never got home, you would see an error message on the screen that tells you to please release the chuck. You would still have saved the inflation time, but you would just watch it finish the balance spin and then continue on balancing the tire. So now we've covered operations for the Road Force WalkAway balancer. If you have additional questions, please check out the videos that we've linked to or go to our Hunter Learning channel to learn more. If you have even still further questions, don't hesitate to contact your local Hunter service representative. They can provide additional training or fill in some of those gaps or answer those specific questions that you might have. Thank you very much for watching.